Okay, so today will be our last class in autonomic nervous system. We will finish today. From the next class onwards, we will start with a new system. We will start with sensory system. Okay, so today's class about the parasympathetic system. Again, a division of your autonomic nervous system. It is a division or it is a system of energy restoration. Okay, so how it works? It works when the body is at rest. It helps in repair, renovation of your body systems. The other name for parasympathetic system is your craniosacral outflow, because the fibers, they arrive from your brain and your sacral segments of spinal cord. So craniosacral outflow, it is a system of energy restoration and it helps in the repair and renovation of your body systems, and it works when the body is at rest. So the sympathetic system was about the system which acts when the body is at emergency situations. Okay, and this is a system which acts when the body is at rest. So coming to the structural organization of parasympathetic system, as you all know, it is otherwise termed as your craniosacral outflow. Okay, the two parts, cranial part and your sacral part. The cranial component, it originates from your brain stem, a part of your brain, and the sacral component, it originates from the intermediolateral gray column of the sacral segments of spinal cord. So the cranial component from the brain stem, the sacral component from your sacral segments of your spinal cord. And the function of the parasympathetic system, or the activation of parasympathetic system, it causes your localized responses. So the divergence of parasympathetic outflow is minimal. If you remember, for the sympathetic outflow, the divergence ratio was 1:100. But for parasympathetic outflow, the presynaptic output to your postsynaptic output is just about 1:50. And for your sympathetic, the ratio was 1:100, and the divergence of your sympathetic outflow was maximal, and for parasympathetic outflow it is minimal. So there is no circulating hormonal mechanism to aid the divergence of your parasympathetic activation. For your sympathetic activation, it was due to the hormones of your adrenal cortex. Okay, the parasympathetic ganglia are located very close to the organ or are embedded in the organ, and the preganglionic neurons are much more longer than the postganglionic neurons. So till now, through the introduction of parasympathetic system, and we have already studied the sympathetic system, you can differentiate between both the systems, from where it originates, what is the function, okay, and what are the neurons and ganglia associated with both the systems. Okay, so you just can differentiate between both sympathetic and your parasympathetic systems. Now coming to the two components of your parasympathetic system. One, as we know, is the cranial component, that is the part which is located in your brain, and to be specific, it is in the brainstem. And other one is your sacral component. So let's study in details about the cranial component. Okay, the cell bodies of preganglionic neurons of cranial component are located in your brainstem. Okay, that is why it is otherwise called as your brainstem parasympathetic division. These neurons from the brainstem, they innervate the structures in your head, neck, thorax and abdomen. Head, neck, thorax and abdomen. The parasympathetic axons from your brainstem, they travel in your cranial nerves 3, 7, 9 and 10. 3, 7, 9 and 10 cranial nerves. The nuclei for these cranial nerves are present in your midbrain, in your tactum, pons and medulla. Okay, so neurons, they innervate your head, neck, thorax and abdomen. They travel in your cranial nerves 3, 7, 9 and 10. They are present in your midbrain nuclei. Okay, and nuclei are the centers for integration of your autonomic reflexes for organs, systems they innervate. Okay, so in details about the cranial nerves, you will study in the nervous system. Okay, so just here we will study about in gist about each of the cranial nerves, that is your oculomotor, facial, glossopharyngeal and vagus. Okay, if you see this diagram, it shows your parasympathetic nervous system, from where the nucleus, the cranial nerves and to which organs they supply. Edinger-Westphal nucleus for oculomotor nerve. Okay, then you have a superior salivary nucleus for your glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, dorsal nucleus of vagus for your, again, your vagus nerves. The ganglion, the ciliary ganglion, pterygopalatine ganglion, submandibular ganglion, otic ganglion. Okay, divisions. So this is the cranial segment and this is your sacral segments, S2 to S4. Okay, through your pelvic splanchnic nerve, which supplies your intestine and your bladder. So we'll study about each of the nerves. Okay, here we will focus only on the functions, okay, of the nerves, from where they are emerging and where they are getting transmitted. Originates from tectum of your midbrain, oculomotor nerve, cranial nerve 3. It has cell bodies in your Edinger-Westphal nucleus. The preganglionic fibers, they travel in your third, that is your oculomotor cranial nerve, to terminate on the cell bodies of the postganglionic neuron in your ciliary ganglia. So the preganglionic travel in your third cranial nerve to the postganglionic neuron in your ciliary ganglia, which is located inside the orbit of your eye. Then the postganglionic axons will enter the eyeball near your optic nerve and innervate your sphincter muscle of iris, that is your sphincter pupillae. Okay, so the function is to control the diameter of your pupil. So for sphincter pupillae, the function of your oculomotor nerve is to control the diameter of your pupil. For ciliary muscles that focuses lens, the function is accommodation for near vision. Okay, sphincter pupillae is the control the diameter of pupil. Ciliary muscles accommodation of your for near vision, and it also supplies your choroidal blood vessels. And after that, it projects to the tectum and provides input for your oculomotor reflexes. So this is cranial nerve 3, to which organs they supply and the functions. Next, coming to the next cranial nerve, that is your 7th cranial nerve, facial. Okay, they emerge or they come out from your superior salivary nuclei in medulla, and then they pass from the facial nerve into your greater superficial petrosal nerve to synapse in your pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay, emerge from your superior salivary nuclei. The postganglionic fibers, they innervate your lacrimal gland and the glands of nasal and palatal mucosa. So these are the structures where the cranial nerve 7th it innervates. The another set of your preganglionic fibers in facial nerve, they travel via your chorda tympani nerve that will synapse in your submandibular ganglion. Okay, about each and every nerve of your facial nerve branches you must have already studied in details. Okay, then the postganglionic fibers from your submandibular ganglion, they innervate your submandibular and sublingual glands. So you have your lacrimal gland, glands of nasal and palatal mucosa, submandibular and sublingual glands. The next, that is your glossopharyngeal nerve, cranial nerve 9th. The preganglionic axons, they originate from the inferior salivary nuclei in medulla. Then the fibers take a tortuous course through your lesser petrosal nerve to terminate in your otic ganglion. Then the postganglionic axons, they join the auriculotemporal branch of your 5th cranial nerve to innervate parotid gland. Function, they will facilitate secretion of saliva. So parotid gland function is secretion of saliva. Then the chemosensory information of blood gases from carotid bodies and baroreceptor information of blood pressure from a carotid sinus are transmitted through the medullary cardiovascular centers via your glossopharyngeal afferents. So function of glossopharyngeal nerve, it joins with your auriculotemporal branch of the 5th cranial nerves to innervate your parotid gland, which helps to facilitate secretion of saliva. Is that clear? Okay. Now coming to the last nerve, that is a cranial nerve 10th, vagus. It's a very big nerve, okay, which comprises of about 75% of the total parasympathetic activity. Okay, it arises from nucleus ambiguus and dorsal motor nucleus of vagus in medulla. The preganglionic fibers, they travel in the vagus nerves to the ganglia located in the organ. The organs which are supplied via vagus nerves, let's start. Heart and lungs, intrinsic plexus of GI tract. Heart, lungs, intrinsic plexus of GI tract. Functions, the sympathetic postganglionic fibers, they intermingle and travel in the same nerve trunk with parasympathetic preganglionic fibers to your target tissues, through which they form your vasosympathetic trunk. Okay, vagosympathetic trunk, that is the sympathetic postganglionic fibers along with the parasympathetic preganglionic fibers. okay, through the same nerve, vagosympathetic trunk. So the cranial nerves, the organs which are innervated by your preganglionic fibers, are your heart, lungs and intrinsic plexus of GI tract. So the coming to the functions for heart, the right vagus nerve, it has influence on your SN node, and the left vagus on AV node. Function, vagal stimulation slows down your heart rate. Okay, other functions you must have already studied in your CVS. Coming to the lungs, it controls the bronchial smooth muscle, that is constriction of your bronchioles, and the secretory cell activity of your lungs. Now coming to the GI tract, the vagal fibers which innervate your esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, up to 2/3 of your transverse colon. Okay, they stimulate motility and secretory functions. So for heart, right vagus has more influence on a SN node and left vagus on AV node. It slows, vagal stimulation slows the heart rate. For lungs, constriction of bronchioles. For the GI tract, it is motility and secretory functions. Now the two, acetylcholine and VIP, are transmitters of your post ganglionic neurons, and there are some innovations also except for these organs to your kidneys, liver, spleen and pancreas. So the vagus nerve in details will be taught to you when you study about the cranial nerves and functions of each of your cranial nerves in your proper nervous system classes. Here just a gist of the four cranial nerves: oculomotor, facial, glossopharyngeal and vagus, and just the basic function of each of your nerves, the cranial component of your parasympathetic system. Now coming to the sacral component of your parasympathetic system. So these sacral segments, they include your S2, S3 and S4. The parasympathetic neurons innervate the structures in your pelvis. The preganglionic fibers, they originate in the intermediolateral gray column of sacral segments in S2, S3 and S4 of your spinal cord. Then the preganglionic fibers, they terminate in the ganglia in or near the viscera, that include, what are the structures in your pelvis? Descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, internal anal sphincter, urinary bladder and your reproductive organs. Okay. The sacral S2 to S4, it supplies your descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, internal anal sphincter, urinary bladder and your reproductive organs. So the structural organization of your parasympathetic system, which comprises of your cranial component as well as your sacral component. The cranial component, it is through your four cranial nerves, okay, that arises from your brainstem, cranial nerve 3, 7, 9 and 10, and the sacral component is from the sacral segments S2, S3 and S4. Now what is the functions of the parasympathetic system? As you all know, it is the system of energy restoration. So it restores body energy reserve. Okay. So except on cardiovascular system, most of the parasympathetic effects are stimulatory, especially when for the processes that facilitate your energy storage and growth. So it helps in the repair and restoration of body systems. They will stimulate the intestinal motility, secretion, digestion and absorption, and they promote your reproductive functions. Okay, so parasympathetic system is the system of energy restoration. The neurotransmitters and receptors associated with your parasympathetic system. The fibers are mainly your cholinergic in nature, and acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter both in your pre and post ganglionic fibers. So there are two sets of receptors. The first set is your muscarinic receptors. Okay, so these are present in your heart, smooth muscles and glands. They are activated only by your acetylcholine and muscarine. And what is the function of these receptors? They produce inhibitory effects on heart. Inhibitory effects on heart, for example, decreased heart rate. Excitatory effects on smooth muscles and glands. So for heart, inhibition; for smooth muscles and glands, it is excitation. For example, increased GI motility and secretion. Okay, so the muscarinic receptors for heart, it is inhibitory in nature, and for smooth muscles and glands it is excitatory in nature. The effects are mediated by your decreased cyclic AMP formation, and also due to the direct opening of potassium channels in the nodal tissues of your heart. In smooth muscles and glandular tissue, effects are mediated by the intracellular IP3 and calcium. The drug which blocks your muscarinic receptors is your atropine. The next type is your nicotinic receptors. Okay, muscarinic receptors and nicotinic receptors. These receptors are present in your autonomic ganglia, that is both your sympathetic and parasympathetic ganglia. They are present in your neuromuscular junctions and adrenal medulla. They are activated by your acetylcholine and nicotine. The activation, it produces excitatory effects on your target tissues. It is mediated by direct binding of acetylcholine to the alpha receptors, alpha units of receptors. It also contains your sodium and potassium channels. Okay, and the effects are blocked by your ganglion blockers. So the drugs or the blockers which affect your parasympathetic as well as sympathetic system, those are termed as your autonomic drugs. Okay. So what are these drugs, autonomic drugs? When you will go next year, you will study in details about these blockers and drugs. Okay. The drugs will exert their effects by acting on the receptors. Okay, it may be directly or it may be indirectly. So for under your autonomic drugs, okay, you have 4 different varieties of autonomic drugs. The first is your sympathomimetic drugs. The second is your sympatholytic drugs or your sympathetic blockers. Okay. The fourth one is your parasympathomimetic drugs, and third one the fourth one is your parasympatholytic drugs or parasympathetic blockers. Okay, so you have sympatholytic drugs or sympathetic blockers, parasympatholytic drugs or parasympathetic blockers, and other two are your sympathomimetic drugs and parasympathomimetic drugs. So the sympathomimetic drugs are similar and they produce effects which are similar to your sympathetic nerve stimulation. They are otherwise also called as your adrenaline like drugs. For examples, adrenaline, noradrenaline, etc. The sympathetic blockers or your sympatholytic drugs, okay, they block the actions of your sympathetic neurotransmitters. So the mechanisms by which these blockers act, first one is prevention of synthesis and storage of noradrenaline. Okay, prevention of release of NE. Next, blockage of your alpha receptors and blockage of your beta receptors. Not much is required for the drugs, just remember the names of or the division of different drugs and how they act. Okay, so blockage of transmission of nerve impulse through sympathetic ganglion or the ganglion blockers. So here you have prevention of synthesis and storage of NE, prevention of release of NE, okay, noradrenaline or norepinephrine, then blockage of alpha receptors, blockage of beta receptors, and ganglion blockers. The third division is your parasympathomimetic drugs. They are also known as acetylcholine-like drugs, and they have similar effects those of parasympathetic nerve stimulation. They are divided into two types. One, drugs acting on the muscarinic receptors, and the next one is the drugs prolonging action of acetylcholine. Two sets for your parasympathomimetic drugs. The last one is your parasympathetic blockers or otherwise termed as your parasympatholytic drugs. How it acts? It blocks actions of your parasympathetic neurotransmitters by blocking the muscarinic receptors. And the examples is atropine. So you have the various blockers and drugs which acts on your sympathetic as well as parasympathetic division, and these are termed as the autonomic drugs. Then coming to the last part of your autonomic system, what do you mean by autonomic failure? Okay, it's again of two types, primary and secondary. What is primary autonomic failure? It is from an unexplained autonomic neuronal degeneration, and the secondary autonomic failure occurs secondary to some of the general medical disorders. Who can give me an example of a very common secondary autonomic failure? An example of a very common secondary autonomic failure which is seen in most of your populations. Diabetes mellitus. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay, diabetes. So it occurs secondary to some of your general medical disorders. So what are the features of this autonomic failure? Cardiovascular feature, very common cardiovascular feature, tachycardia. GI feature, constipation, diarrhea, dysphagia. Urinary features, nocturia, frequency, urgency, okay, retention of urine. The reproductive problems include your erectile and ejaculation failure, and the ocular features will include your miosis and ophthalmos. So with this we complete the autonomic nervous system, starting from your sympathetic nervous system to your parasympathetic nervous system. We have completed the structural component as well as the functions of your autonomic nervous system. So if you remember, I had told you that a table is there which comprises the functions of both sympathetic as well as your parasympathetic system, the organs and the effects. Okay, so till now you must have had an idea about which organ and what is the effect of your sympathetic and your parasympathetic division. Okay, so you can just go through this table and try to remember just the basic functions for each of your effector organs. One more important question that is always asked is to compare your sympathetic and your parasympathetic division. Okay, so you have to compare sympathetic and parasympathetic division based on some of the criteria. Okay, that is commonly asked question. Okay, so if you have any doubt in autonomic nervous system, you can ask me. Otherwise, I may ask you some of the questions related to your autonomic nervous system. So who can tell me what is the difference between the sympathetic and parasympathetic division based on ganglia present? So how many types? So in this you have to note down how many types of ganglia are present in your sympathetic division and how many types of ganglia are present in your parasympathetic division. So for sympathetic, you have your paravertebral ganglia, prevertebral ganglia, and the peripheral ganglia. So other names are your sympathetic ganglia, collateral ganglia, and your terminal ganglia. Okay. Then what are the neurotransmitters that are secreted by your sympathetic fibers? Another question. Neurotransmitters secreted by your sympathetic fibers. So you can divide it into your preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Okay. So what is the neurotransmitter secreted from your preganglionic sympathetic fibers? Okay, acetylcholine. Now coming to the postganglionic sympathetic adrenergic fibers. Postganglionic sympathetic adrenergic fibers, it is noradrenaline, and postganglionic sympathetic cholinergic fibers, it is your acetylcholine. So preganglionic fibers and postganglionic cholinergic fibers, they secrete your acetylcholine, and postganglionic sympathetic adrenergic fibers, they secrete your noradrenaline. Okay. So what are the structures that are innervated by sympathetic cholinergic nerve fibers? Structures innervated by sympathetic cholinergic nerve fibers. Okay, what is the answer? Structures innervated by sympathetic cholinergic nerve fibers. Heart, okay. GIT, no. Skeletal muscles and sweat glands. Heart, skeletal muscles and sweat glands. Okay, so neurotransmitters from sympathetic was your acetylcholine and noradrenaline, and neurotransmitter from parasympathetic is your only acetylcholine from both preganglionic and postganglionic fibers. Okay. So about the drugs and blockers, you know what are parasympathetic blockers, what are sympathetic blockers, what do you mean by your sympathomimetic drugs? And ganglionic blockers. Okay. Any doubt in autonomic nervous system? So you have any doubt in autonomic nervous system? Okay. So your sympathetic division is otherwise termed as a thoracolumbar outflow, and your parasympathetic division is otherwise termed as your craniosacral outflow. Okay, no doubts. Okay, so from next class we can shift to your spatial senses. Okay, we'll start with eye. So in eye, your first class is on the anatomy of eye. Okay, so for anatomy of eye, which has been in details taught to you in your anatomy classes. Again, till then we will study those structures again in your physiology class. but I want to ask you some of the questions related to that. Okay. So next class, as you have your sensory special senses, study eye anatomy before I take the classes. Okay. Thank you. So whatever classes I have taken down through your online classes, have you understood everything till now? Whatever has been taught, starting with your endocrine and the ANS. I just see thank you ma'am, good morning, good afternoon in each of your classes. But have you understood till now whatever has been taught, or you are having any doubts? You can ask me personally also after the classes if you have some specific doubts.